Trustworthy conversational radio, and it's time for Hard Facts on this frequency, where we get kind of intense because we look at some of the big stories driving conversation in the country, and then we'll move on to other topical conversation. It's the midweek edition of the program, and you know what to expect. Every Wednesday, as often as he can, he joins us on the Roundtable to look at some of these big stories and share very incisive and deep perspective to the stories. And I'm excited and delighted that Dr. Majeed Dahiru is with me in the studio for this program. Dr. Majeed, looking quite sharp. Nice. You went somewhere, you just came here for us. Dr. Majeed is blushing. He doesn't get this kind of compliment every day.
Don't let them wait for me on the road. Or think otherwise.
Exactly.
Miracle, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I mean, you look splendid yourself. As always, anyway.
I appreciate. Delighted to have you here.
Thank you very much.
All right, there is so much happening in the country and so much that people are talking about. But just before we get into more of the stories, I mean, it's a good one that we're getting update that Lakurawa, is that how they're called, this new terror group? They've been there, but that they are retreating as troops intensify ground attack. I know that apparently this one, they're not taking chances with them. We should have learned from Boko Haram, learned from Bandit, learned from all the people who have held up to ransom in the country. And then this group apparently have been there for a long time, but until recently, they started terrorizing their communities in Sokoto State and also identified in Kebbi State, displaced people and caused a lot of deaths. I know that we've had head of security visit the location to boost the morale of the soldiers there and to say, you know, this one, we will not take it lying down. We will ensure that we neutralize them. Zagazola Makama, a counterinsurgency publication focused on the Lake Chad region, says members of the Lukurawa terrorist group have been retreating in the wake of the attack from the troops. Makama reports that a coordinated air and ground attack targeted at this terror group in Kebbi and Sokoto State has led to the seizure of livestock, a vital revenue stream for the group. The report noted that the attack were in collaboration with the air component of Operation Fasan Yaman and Operation Farauta Mujia. And Makama added that the group is withdrawing towards Bogur, a strategic area near the Nigeria-Benin border due to incessant bombardment from the military. We've done bombardments before. We've done all of these things before. I hope it's enough to keep them permanently away and not to just go and regroup and return. But what do you make? You know, when you hear new terror group or new labels, you start to really worry as a Nigerian, given our history.
Yes. Well, it's commendable that we have a leadership at this time that is not dilly-dallying, that is not engaging in debates as to what the group stands for or what they do not stand for. And we are seeing an outright military offensive against this group. And we're also seeing sustained military operations against bandits generally in that northwest area, while they've also sustained their war against terror in the Boko Haram theater of war around the northeast. So quite commendable. However, this poses another challenge that we need to sit down collectively as a people to resolve. The Lakurawa, or what they call themselves, the group, is an Islamist group that purports to want to reenact a pseudo-Islamic state within its sphere of influence. So beyond what they've been doing that may constitute a direct threat to our national security, it must be understood that this group was sort of tolerated by the community for a long time because they were said to be not really against the community, but they were preaching against the concept of a modern state and while imploring people to come back to the Puritan form of Islam and all. And this is the challenge for me. Northern Nigeria, for as long as I can remember, has been a fertile ground for the fertilization, for the germination, for the planting of seeds of radicalization and indoctrination that eventually, of course, led to Boko Haram insurgency and all other splinter Islamist groups loosely splintered across the country. And we are seeing this now in the same region. Now, we must take a decision as a country as to do we want to be a secular country or want to be a religious one. And if a certain part of the country insists on going ahead to be a religious entity, they want to be governed by religious laws, then we should sit at a round table and then discuss how other parts of the country too want to be governed. I say this because the seeds of radicalization that you see in the north is planted in the mainstream Muslim community in northern Nigeria, and it is being watered by mainstream authorities. So you discover that what exactly is the difference between Hizbah, for instance, and this group in terms of enforcing.
But Hizbah is backed by certain legislation at the
There's
state
no
level.
legislation that backs Hizbah. Hizbah is an illegal body.
No law establishing it as a religious police in the state where they
It
operate.
is illegal because constitutionally you should not have a state religion. It is fundamental. The aspect of Sharia, the constitution that's permissible is strictly restricted to personal matters, personal. Marriage, for example, inheritance. Any other aspect of it is not justiciable. So having a Hizbah, for example, in Kano and some other northern states under the name of Sharia is not so different from what these terror groups are doing ideologically. And as long as you have a region that still uses religion as a means of political transaction and seeking for power, you would have a fertile ground for such groups to sprout and germinate and grow. So at this point, having seen what Boko Haram has done to this country for many years, we need to sit down and take a second look as to how do we want to govern ourselves. I've said it severally.
But any attempt to quash such groups when they're rising, wouldn't it be perceived as an infringement on the fundamental right to religion and gathering?
You see, there's no infringement. You are practicing your religion yourself. Don't impose your values, your beliefs on any other person, not even on your children, once they're of age. So you destroy bottles of alcohol in Kano when you mob somebody because the person is eating during fasting and such other things. When you impose laws, religious laws that are extra constitutional, that in fact wrong content to the constitution in some part of the country, you are simply helping to water the seeds of radicalization. We have people that are hoping for, okay, maybe a Mahdi somewhere will emerge or, such a figure. So most of these other splinter groups come in once in a while, pretend to be such, revivalist group that's going to bring Eldorado to that's anticipated Puritan Islamic State. I've argued severally that those who frame our constitution they're not stupid. Our constitution allows for religious freedoms to the extent that it allows all religions their own freedoms. And the constitution allows, for example, every Muslim the uninhibited practice of Sharia faith. That is, if you're a Muslim today, I know to take alcohol, there's nothing in the culture that compels you to do so. All of your beliefs that is personal to you, you can live by them under the same constitution. The same way a Christian will live under the same constitution through all their beliefs. What the constitution does not allow you to do is to elevate your own religion over and above others. What the constitution does not allow you to do is to impose your own value system on others. So if I'm fasting during Ramadan, for instance, I shouldn't somebody that's not fasting and eating during the day and get angry. No, it's not your right. You don't have a business. It's not your business. It's not. If the person is eating opposite the mosque, please allow him. It is his religion that has permitted him not to fast or to eat during that time. But a situation where you want to impose your will on the people under a pseudo ideal Islamic state, it was what created the Boko Haram as we are saying, ideologically speaking. So this is another warning that we are not yet serious as a people. If you go to the next round of election in the Muslim North today, people use religion to campaign for power. Look at an attempt in the National Assembly recently by some northern senators, or Hazias or members now, who want to now expand Sharia in the Constitution beyond personal matters. And I'm like, in this 2024, people from a region that is still battling the ravages of radical Islam in Boko Haram have not learned their lesson. They are coming back to the National Assembly today, 2024, to ask for the expansion of Sharia in the Constitution. If every religious group insists that their own religion should be expanded into the Constitution, are you going to have a Constitution? Nigeria is a secular state. We must secularize Nigeria. in and out, every part of Nigeria. No Nigerian state should be declared an Islamic state. None should be declared a Christian state. Yes. And I say this for all religious groups. Even those governors that are fond of calling their states Christian states in the South should desist. It's an abomination to call any state a Christian state. All the 36 states of the Federation, including the FCT, belongs to all Nigerians, Christian, Muslim, and all that reside there equally. You cannot impose one law on others because you are the majority or because you are the privilege. You can't do that. So I'm saying that some of these problems you are seeing by way of the rise of one or two social groups here and there is because society itself is fertile. It supports this because it has been inundated over the years and it's still being done with this ideal that what you have is not perfect and that it reduces our Muslimness until we have a Sharia rule territory. And it is wrong. You can't have that in a secular, multi-religious society like Nigeria. It cannot. You should not. And I've always argued that, you see, the most Islamic states in the world today are not Muslim-dominated states where Sharia is used as the governing code. Those are not the most Islamic states. States like Saudi Arabia or Iran, no, those are not the most Islamic states. The most Islamic states in the world today, in line with the true teachings of Islam, are Western democratic, secular, multicultural societies where there is equality of citizens, where there is fundamental human rights, and where there is high level of integrity of leadership, irrespective of your religion, ethnicity, or race. So Britain, for example, qualifies more even as an Islamic state than Saudi Arabia. The same thing with the United States of America, where you're being a Muslim or being a Christian does not either increase or enhance or reduce your citizenship right. Yes, these are the real Islamic countries. Because when you go there, you feel Sharia. You feel Sharia in terms of practice. But when you go to Saudi Arabia, you go to Iran and other Muslim-dominated countries, where other religions are not even allowed to exist side by side. That is not Sharia. That is not Islam. That is simply an invented Muslim religion. So what am I saying in essence? Nigeria already, our constitution, allows us to practice our Sharia faith uninhibited. So to solve the problem of Boko Haram and these small insurgency groups, finally, is for the leaders of the Muslim, not especially, to have a change of heart and allow for the proper secularization, dismantle Hizbah, dismantle all Sharia structures in all the states. After it's of no use. It's of no effect. You have Sharia law in the state, and these same states are still being looted by political leaders. We even saw some taking it directly to the Agbada and the
more conversation.
So let us stop this nonsense so that Nigeria can be spared of this self-insinuation happening in the Muslim North that might completely engulf this country eventually.
All right, so at this point in time is to recognize and play like a secular state, but that recognizes your liberty to practice your faith and your religion. You know why I'm saying that
in history, when the Nigerian state has ever been an impediment against somebody's practice of religion, I can't remember any time. The Nigerian state has always been very sensitive to that. So they said that they went over to allow for inheritance and marriage laws to be coded into the constitution in terms of Sharia version of it. So the state has even bent backwards to even accommodate this aspect so it can be justiciable, inheritance and divorce. Okay. Because since Muslims have a specific law for this, it was accommodated. That is enough. That is more than charitable. Any attempt to expand this beyond that is a call for chaos. We will end up like Lebanon. We will end up like Syria. We will end up like Somalia. Let us for once put on our think camp. But the Boko Haram insurgency today is as a result of Islamization. It's a result of Islamization of politics. They call it political Islam. That is the byproduct of political Islam. It must be dismantled because it is inconsistent with the real Islamic religion. And I say this as a Muslim, with all sense of responsibility, without fear of contradiction. I'm saying the real Islam is represented in a secular state where everybody is equal. Let me tell you what I talk about secularity. Do that in India, for instance. Muslims in India today are crying and wishing for secularism. You know why? The Hindu nationalists that have taken up power since Modi came to power appear to have elevated Hinduism over and above even the Constitution of India. So, for instance, all institutions in India today, including law enforcement, including judiciary, sort of kowtow to Hindu nationalist tendencies. What you call extremism too. So in India today, whereas Muslims are supposed to celebrate the feast of Eid with the slaughter of either a ram or a cow, right? If you dare slaughter cow in some Muslim communities,
oh no,
in India
that's
that are possible to Hindu communities,
will be seen as blasphemy.
And when they come to kill you, the law enforcement will appear to be weak. The same way it happened in Sokoto in Nigeria. So meaning just to practice your own religion in certain crimes can constitute death penalty for you. In Myanmar, for instance, the plight of the Rohingya Muslims such that to just be a Muslim in Myanmar is death sentence. It's a capital offense.
We saw the cleansing that happened there as a result of...
because of their faith. Those Muslims will even appreciate secularism. But no, in Myanmar, Hindu, extremist Buddhists have also taken all the reins of power. And they're directing affairs of the state. If you know that you want others to do unto you what you want them, what you would rather do unto them, in your own spheres of influence, do not have that desire to impose your own on others. You've seen those that want to impose theirs on you in areas where you're weak. You've seen the result. Kill cow in India, you die, and the police will not say because the prime minister thinks it is actually wrong for you to kill cow to celebrate Eid, something that your religion prescribes for you. So if you live in Nigeria too and see people that are practicing different religions, do not think that they should be brought under the control of your own. It is a wrong orientation that we must begin to reverse. Because this group will keep coming up over and over. Like I said earlier, this group has been there. It was tolerated by the community until they went rogue, so to say. And because this community has really seen the suffering from banditry and Boko Haram, that is the reason why they're raising alarm. When Boko Haram started in the early days, it enjoyed legitimacy. That was why the videos, the preachings of the former Minister of Communication, Malam Panchami, when he came on, people didn't understand that, look, these things enjoy legitimacy in the mainstream. He was a mainstream preacher. It was when the devastation became too much that we began to now see them from a different light. And I'm saying this thing started from the kind of preachings we are doing here in Nigeria. We continuously preach against the Constitution, against democracy, against Western style education, and all of that. We are indirectly promoting an alternative that is desirable to the people. And any of such groups that come in can easily gain acceptance, gain legitimacy. And when we wreck Nigeria today and turn it to Sudan, or turn it to Somalia, or turn it to Syria, all of us pack ourselves and besiege Western countries to go and seek refuge. Because Saudi will never admit you as a refugee.
We're getting to see that in the Middle East. It's surprising. I mean, the height of it, remember, with Syria, Turkey took some of them, and then the rest went to Europe. Saudi was refusing to accept them.
Into their country.
They didn't take.
As a Nigerian, if you go for Hajj, for example, your visa only restricts you to Medina, Mecca, and Jeddah. You can't go to Riyadh with a Hajj visa. Iran will not take you in because you are Shiite Muslim. No. It is still the West. That's West they are going to go to.
I mean, we saw a lot of them headed to Europe.
So in Nigeria, you refuse to live together as one. Irrespective of your religious differences, you are refusing. You think it should be jihad all the time. But then the jihad escalates and everybody's on the run. You now force yourself to go and live with people of no faith at all, in the code, just to remain alive. Why can't we today come together? I'm making this call because this is just beyond a group that you think you're going to fight. And I'm happy the army is fighting them. But there's an ideological basis for this. That's why I pointed out the fact that in 2024, a group of senators, their problem in the National Assembly is that they want to expand Sharia.
Well, you know what they say about religion being the opium of the people, and the easiest and fastest way to appeal to certain people is when you bring religious sentiment in.
The next thing is to hold on to religion. So I'm happy that motion was stepped down. Somebody is still thinking that today. So are you surprised that you have groups in Sokoto and some other places that are bringing up that same agenda of Islamization? What is it with us? Are we the only country that have Muslim majority? Senegal is a majority Muslim country. Gambia is a majority Muslim country. Guinea is a Muslim country too. And of other Egypt, for God's sake. Egypt is not just a Muslim country, it's an Arab country. Egypt is a secular country. I know
they try to suppress the Muslim Brotherhood from that.
To prevent what happening here from happening there. Yes. When you have ideology that is intolerant of other people, when you think that other people are not human enough because they don't believe in your religion, the state must prevent it from escalating, from growing.
Well, the state has to act, like you pointed out, because every religion gives that mandate to go and make disciples of others.
Yes.
If the state does not find a way to balance it, everybody will feel it's their call on earth to convince people to come to their religion.
Our religion is regulated even in Saudi Arabia, even in Saudi. You can't get over a preach what you like. Oh,
really?
No. You can't. Because they understand that if you're allowed to preach, they preach nonsense and create chaos. They don't allow. They vet your preaching materials every Friday. There's a ministry in charge of that. And if you go outside what was approved for you to preach, you face the sanctions squarely, including jail terms. They don't play with you. You don't go and just talk anything. In Nigeria, that anybody can mount in pulpit and open their mouth and talk. And just talk anything they want, anything that comes out of it in the name of religion. It's only in Nigeria that happens. You don't do that. So I'm telling you what this group is trying to achieve. Our mainstream preachers and political leaders in the North are hand in gloves, ideologically, yes. That's the truth.
All right, so beyond the military bombardment now, there is a need for that reorientation. But if the people at the top are benefiting off of it, how then do we correct it?
What benefit are you benefiting with Boko Haram insurgency that is sapping the life out of us?
Dr. Majeed, there are people who benefited even with the bombardment and the destruction caused by Boko Haram.
What kind of a benefit is that? And for how long would the rest of Nigeria, for example, Nigeria is not a Muslim country. Nigeria is a secular country with almost even population of Muslims and Christians, for instance. Now, for how long will the rest of Nigeria continue to endure the collective incineration arising from the self-immolation of the Muslim North through radical religiosity? For how long? Do you now blame people that are looking for forms of restructuring to just free themselves from, this whole thing? Yes. So the leaders of the North must rise, and political leaders and religious leaders, and put an end to this pervasive Islamism in northern Nigeria. It has held the region back. It has destroyed the region. That's the reason you cannot fight. You can't solve the problem of Almajiri in the North. How can you solve it? You cannot. You can't. You cannot solve it. Except the people themselves have a change of mind. You can't. Yes. You cannot solve it.
Already, the Borno State governor is looking at what to do about the out-of-school children and at Almajiri. In short, specifically, it's saying it's to dealing with the Almajiri situation in Borno State.
How did you have the Almajiri situation in Nigeria? When you have a religious culture that holds education that is considered as a Western diversion, in disdain, in suspicion, it makes it look like if you go through that system, you become corrupted in spirit and soul, and you can no longer function as a good Muslim. And that kind of preaching is still going on. Going on, even by educated scholars.
Oh yeah, it opens the summit to reform Almajiri education in the state.
What are you reforming? Saudi does not have Almajiri. So what are you reforming? See, there's this reluctance. We try to romance things that are supposed to be simply discarded with. Let you then go to school. The education we get today, maths, physics, chemistry, is not a Western invention. Education is neither Western nor Islamic. It is a universal body of knowledge that has been enriched and contributed to by all civilizations, including Islamic civilization. It keeps growing. Down to English language that still comes from African languages. Every year the Western dictionary is updated with African language and other languages. It does that education is just simply about learning. It is not anybody's private property. That's why those who have opened their mind to learning from Southeast Asia have caught up, if not even overtaken the West in industrialization through the same knowledge. And the knowledge didn't refuse to enter their head because they are Asians. In terms of management, energy entrepreneurship, the Middle East countries have also taken the lead in the world through the same knowledge. They went to school, studied, and came back and improved on their system. In Saudi, education is free, for instance. Saudis go to school. They have a literacy rate of almost 80%. They go to school.
Male and female.
Yes. They get paid. So Saudis started the boost for female education as far back as in the 60s, under King Faisal, when they carried out massive reforms in the kingdom. Saudis, they don't just go to school, they go to qualitative school and they are paid to go to school. That's why you can't see any Saudi student in the West doing any menial job to survive. No. He's on general scholarship. Such the value that the headquarters of Islam attaches to education. If Iranians didn't go to school, they're able to develop drones that can shoot missiles from Tehran to Israel within a few minutes.
No, their literacy level is pretty high. I know
very
that
high,
of Iran.
to the point that they will put down refineries. So these are advanced Islamic countries. So who is Dr. Nigeria actually copied in Almajiri that they want to reform? What are you reforming in Almajiri? Why should a child leave his parents' house to go and live with somebody in this modern era? Let me tell you, I come from a community that's part of northern Nigeria, in central Nigeria. I'm from Okene. Okene is a very Muslim town too. We have Christians, but you can see that there's a predominance of Muslims. Okene does not have one out-of-school children. One, not one child out of school, Okene. Not one. I challenge anybody to bring me one.
They say they are roaming around with all the
It's not possible. As in, it is not possible.
It's not.
I grew up. I want to share my experience. Really, I grew up there. I attended the Catholic school, primary school, for instance. Look, in every corner, they have madrasas. From primary school, dead. Once you arrive home by 1 p.m., we have a quick lunch. You go to the mosque to pray. All of us have gone to our respective madrasas. My teacher then, I had 2 teachers initially. We had a madrasa in my family compound. So they said, they weren't whipping me very well, so they took me to another one. But before I left there, my teacher was Malam Sadiku. Malam Sadiku was himself a teacher in a public primary school that was earning a living. So it's when he comes from school, for example, as a teacher in the afternoon, he was an Arabic and Islamic
teacher,
subject teacher. It's when he comes back from school in the afternoon, he leads the prayer in the mosque, and he now takes us through our lessons. So because he was my uncle, he wasn't really beating me much. So he said, you will not learn. Then I took me to the nearby madrasa, my Malam, his name was also Malam Sadiku, incidentally. Malam Sadiku in this case was a tailor. Malam Sadiku will sit down behind his machine as I'm going to school in the morning. Malam Sadiku has a Zoom at his working place. He will sit down behind his machine and pedal away till 2 o'clock, go for prayers. While we are resuming for Islamia, Malam Sadiku is still working, he works till 4 o'clock. Then by 4, he has closed for the day. He will now come into the Islamia to now look at what you are doing, supervise all what you are doing. Guess what? He had about 5 children then. They were all in primary and secondary school like me. As I'm going to school in the morning, Madam Sunday school students are going to school with us. As I come back, we come back together. So sometimes if you arrive Islamia early, you meet the students still in their uniform, having their own lunch too. Yes. My Mehadis then, Malam Shule of Rev, he was the University of Ilorin student. He was the Mehadis of he takes us hadith in our Islamia. At that time, he was the University of Ilorin undergraduate. Today, he's a scientist in a nice concert. He's a sub-scientist there, and he's still a Malam. Do you get the point? In fact, one of the biggest Malams in my community, late Sheikh Ahmad Rufai, his son was an aeronautical engineer, the late Senator Eti Ahmed. Another son of his was the chemical engineer who became the MD of nice concert. These are Malam's children. It was not something that we didn't know that it was possible for children to go to school. It was a concept we discovered from our neighbors in the other part of the north. We didn't know.
No, it's predominant in the north. Growing up in Sokoto then, the mental picture I have, even till date, of Almajiris is of children, particularly boys, all lined up with chains on their ankle. Growing up, I remember we going to school and you see them, and I often used to ask my dad, why do they chain their legs? They will have bowls in hand, and they say they're Almajiris, that they are coming out of their school, they beg, they get food, they get arms, then they go back to where they are studying religion. And I often wonder why they're so young and why they were chained. They say sometimes for them not to run away.
So this is a culture that is pervasive, that should be gotten
which is not seen in the southern parts, like southwest, where you have religion.
I didn't have to leave my father's house to learn Islamia. I did not. My father. All of us lived with our parents, and we learned it well.
It's just like Sunday school that we do. You go to school and then you go for Sunday school.
For God's sake, no, I said there's not a single. It doesn't exist.
So it's a cultural thing in the north.
Cultural thing. It's not Islamic. So to tell me you want to reform, what are you reforming? Change your mind. Change this thing. It's no longer working. It is taking the blood of the resources of the federation. Change it.
So how people get sentimental when it comes to religious issues, you start to look at people who are already ingrained in the system to say,
for me,
a governor comes and it becomes very unpopular to say he's taking his right.
I'm telling you that this is not Islam.
Okay.
It is not. I'll give you an example of Saudi Arabia, of Iran. This is not Islam. Maybe you think I went too far. I give you an example of Okene in Kogi State, where I come from. Ask anybody from that town. Ask anybody who has ever lived there. How you going to share Almajiri anyway? For what? To do what? And we give alms and charity.
No, they're only seen in the northwest and some part of the northeast.
We give alms and charity. In fact, let me tell you this. Sometimes, my own father was okay. Today I want to give sadaka. Do you know how we do a sadaka in Okene? If it's akara I want to share, if it is cooked food, you would hold the bowl in front of your house. Children that are on their way to school will stop by and pick and eat briskly and be running to school. I don't know if you understand. So you that they gave to the say, stay. Once your friends come and pass and pick the piece of akara, whatever they want to pick, you drop your bowl, you enter and start going to school. So you see children that are instead of chaining them and put them on the street, no, on their way to school, they will stop over at houses where sadaka is available. They know. To pick and they're racing to school. If you know the kind of academic competition we had when we were growing up, you saw this James Hadley Chase. You saw this
pace setters.
My friends read Chase, came to the point that started thinking like Putahole and others. They started imagining things. And these are guys that were also Hafiz in Quran and in Hadith. That is proficient. It didn't disturb them. Today, most of them are successful in every field of endeavor. No doubt, if you come to northern Nigeria today, people from Kogi Kwara are usually seen to be the intellectual bed, how. That is the reason, and they are as Muslim as anybody can be.
Well, I mean, you can't look at the influential northerner just limiting his or her child to the Almajiri system.
No,
they get Western education.
They
travel
to UK, they get to Cambridge.
Indeed.
Yes. But somebody is romancing. And what are you romancing in Almajiri? What are you romancing?
Oh, well, the Borno State Governor Babagana Zulum unveiled a summit aimed at reforming the Almajiri education system, a traditional Islamic method of learning widely obtained across states in northern Nigeria. The event took place at a conference hall. Musa Usman Secretariat was graced by education stakeholder, religious leaders, community advocate to discuss innovate strategies in order to integrate the Almajiri system, finding a way to incorporate it into basic formal education at this point in time. So perhaps he's taking these baby steps because it might just sound a little draconian and sodden for people who are that's their way of life.
There's nothing sodden about good.
To now say, we're going to do away with...
There's nothing sodden about taking money from hell.
Dr. Majeed, it will meet some resistance. We know Nigeria.
Because the same leaders themselves have weaponized this. You see, we have a situation where the political leaders benefit from the ignorance and poverty of the people. It's only people that are not educated like this that you can tell them to move in one direction and they move without thinking. They can easily vote along religious lines and all that because that's the limits of their knowledge. When you have a leadership that is afraid of people becoming free because of knowledge, it's a problem. It is the decision to keep the children like this. If you pick that child today, you, Kim, adopt that child and put him in a school in Abuja, the child will not run back to the street. No. So there's nothing drastic about, hey, if I see your child roaming the streets during school hour, because school is now free, up to secondary school level, I will arrest and prosecute you. It happened during colonial times. If it happened in colonial times, if Madu Bello and co could push education agenda very far in the north then, is it in 2024 that it will be drastic to take concrete steps to save the north and by save Nigeria from this disaster? Atiku's memoir, for example, he stated it clearly. His own father was jailed for preventing him from going to school.
Yeah, I think I was going to refer to the article where I say back then, you get into trouble if your kid is found roaming the street and not attending school. Because it was literally free at that point. They saying, give this child education.
It should be a crime. It should be considered child abuse for you to give birth to a child and go and give somebody a certain age to take care of. No. If, for example, you cannot take care of your child, the state should organize the adoption properly. You know, in the West, you can't even adopt even a dog without going to a certain level
procedure,
of not talk of a human being. So you give birth to children and you go and dump it to somebody under the name of religion. And I'm saying that is no religion. So there's nothing drastic about correcting this very deep anomaly that has constituted the social movement. There's nothing. You are doing the work. You are doing one of the greatest jihad by drastically changing the fortune of these children, drastically as much as possible. We need it now because a time will come that the next Nigeria will not keep clapping for non-Muslims and keep having this conversation. People will get out and say, if you cannot help yourself, then allow us to be spared of the consequences of this helplessness that you have actually, deliberately.
Well, the critical chunk of out-of-school children are in the northern parts of the country. Yes. The northwest takes a large chunk of it.
It's not acceptable. It's not acceptable, and it should be a thing of concern to all. And we're saying there's nothing wrong with a northern child. Nothing. Absolutely. To say that, you need to lower the standard for a northern child.
That's another conversation because we always look at the educationally backward state and we're saying since Nigeria gained independence, that label has been on the northern part of the country as educationally backward. And it's not possible that you find a people who will be stagnant, educationally backward. Repeating that narrative is enforcing it to just saying it has to continue.
You wear like a badge of honor.
I have classmates who are from this region, Sokoto, Kebbi, brilliant, intelligent people who contribute. So
because they are normal people. Normal. The thing is, you have a culture that discourages this. Not just education, or even creativity. Look at how Hisba disturbs Kannywood, left, right, center. You do TikTok video, Hisba is on your matter. You can see how. So even in creativity, the South, unfortunately, for us in the North, has taken the lead. Look at our children for the South winning Grammys all over the world. But look at the North. Because somebody has decided that his religion does not permit creativity in art and entertainment.
Well, if it's any consolation, one of the movies, the only movie, as a matter of fact, that was submitted for Oscars is done from the northern part. I know our director of program, Prince Aboki Daniel, is the producer-director, May Mataba. So I just wanted to put that one in.
That to show that
but it's telling you that it can change.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is, we have this talent in the North. But the challenge is, if you ask the producer of that movie, what they have to go through, I'm sure they have to have relocated from Kano.
Oh, yes, they did. They relocated. They had to tell the story from a Katsina perspective, and I'm sure adjusted to certain things, yeah.
Ordinarily, the northern part of this country in the 70s was one of the most prosperous. Go and look at the records. Very diverse, secular, secure and peaceful, very religious, very decent people. It was in the era of secularism in the North that the rest of Nigeria has got the impression that Northerners are very trustworthy and honest.
If they say Allah, you believe that.
There was no Sharia anywhere, but people were that honest. We are Sharia compliant by conviction. But today they have Sharia law. Even those that impose Sharia law are the ones that are running after EFCC, left, right, center, trying to answer questions on how they took money and put inside the Agbada and all of that. So then why are we doing this? Why are we doing this to ourselves? So in summary, secularism is not in conflict with Islam. No. In fact, an ideal Islamic state that is multicultural and multi-religious must be secular. Even if it's a Muslim-dominated state, you know why? Even in Islam, we have different branches. We have different ideologies. We have different theological framework. So some Muslims may not believe certain kind of issues, such as a particular sect. Some might believe. Even in an Islamic state, it should allow everybody to worship according to their belief. Because if you impose your own ideal, you have shortchanged some of them, even though they are Muslims. For example, if you have Sunnis and Shiites within a locality, for example, and you impose only Shiite Islamic theology as it is in Iran, you have shortchanged the few Sunnis that are there. If you also do the same in Saudi Arabia, the Shiites in Saudi Arabia are highly suppressed too. So it does not pay anybody. Anybody can be a victim of what we're talking about now. That's why we need freedom and equality guaranteed to everybody. Don't disturb me, I won't disturb you. Simple.
All right then, that's simple as it gets. Let's look at some comments quickly. Good afternoon, Dr. Majeed. Biggest challenge in Nigeria is insecurity, or security challenge is the biggest, and it's becoming alarming, Hafsat Moazu said. Mansour Umar says, good afternoon. This Lakurawa sect need to be tackled as a matter of urgency. May we overcome. Brown Trendy says, good afternoon, Kim, Dr. Majeed. We need you in the National Orientation Agency. You're very knowledgeable and open-minded, and we need people like you to dismantle all this extremist agenda. Adekunle Olayinka is watching us all the way from Newcastle. Olayinka, thank you very much for joining us. Nas J, good afternoon. I find it very interesting and educative listening to your station, particularly on Wednesday, watching from Warri in Delta State. Inua Abraham, thank you for watching from Delta State. Good afternoon. I look forward to Wednesday every week because of this particular show. Godwin Sani, thank you very much. Nature's Pharmacy says, we are the two major problems with Nigeria and the way out. What are the two major problems with Nigeria and the way out? Are you asking a question? Olachudi Richard says, two major problems of Nigeria are religion and tribe, and we'd get it right only if we could get it right with these two. All right, Olatuja Richard responded to Nature's Pharmacy's question, and they had the conversation going on there. Ohio Musa says, wow, Dr. Majeed, I just with the concerns, guys will just get a note and pen and learn at your feet. Please consider running for office. Good afternoon to you. Otto Eyes, radical Islamization is the biggest problem to northern Nigeria and Nigeria as a country, but the elite children are not radicalized. Why is that? Pilar, okay, the founder, let's see, you can never see the child of any politician as an Almajiri. God would never forgive the founder. Okay, let's leave that one out. But he's saying highly influential northerners and northern leaders do not have their children limited to just that form of education at this point in time. All of that comment I read from our YouTube page. On Facebook, Samson Genesi says, no single Almajiri in Igbera land. Dr. Majeed is right. He confirms that. What is killing on its Nigeria is hypocrisy. Desmond Ayo says. Prince Zenze says, the reps who are of the Muslim faith, why would they will not let that happen because they are the majority? I don't understand what you're trying to say. All right, you're right, my brother. We all know the truth and the solution of the problem in Nigeria. And Dr. Majeed, good afternoon. The issue of Almajiri system cannot be disconnected with the ongoing growth of terrorism in northern Nigeria. I remember during my NYSC days in Gombe State, a certain House of Rep member from that area boldly provided solar bulbs to these centers in the area where children were sleeping out in the cold. It tells you that the system enjoys an elite bargaining and is not going anywhere anytime soon, judging by the body language of our northern leaders and even the masses. Suleiman Hussein from Buhari sent that one in. It is the Okay. Stephen, the Ororo son from Cuba, says, Dr. Majeed, I think the doctor has said it all concerning the new terror group in the north. I will still call to complete my thought, he said. Let's go to the phone lines. Let's take a call quickly before the break. Hello?
Yeah, hello?
Good afternoon. Turn off your radio, please.
Good afternoon. I'm sorry for the... I didn't know you took my...
Go ahead, sir.
My call.
Go ahead, Barrister Hassan.
I want to thank you for what you have done. I thank Dr. Majeed for his incisive analysis and all that. You see, what I want to say here now is the fact that we have, as a people, have to wake up and not accept salient questions. Where did we go wrong? It's not a matter of taking the symptoms of an illness. It's a matter of finding out the deep-seated reasons for our diseases. You see, over time, for decades, that allowed certain anomalies to hamper our progress in socioeconomic terms, political terms, democratic terms, environmental terms, and all that. So it's not a matter of just deploying soldiers to go and dislodge Boko Haram or to go and dislodge bandits. It's a matter of finding out how we can solve our problem, how we can rehabilitate this Nigerian nation, how we can use our resources to create very bright future for our children. Understand? And it's a collective matter, collective governance, matter of collective security. Everybody must be involved. But there's nobody that's talking like that now. The president is not talking like that. Nobody's talking like that. There's no right. And that's why people are not happy. Understand? And I know it can be done. So we're coming out very soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Barrister Hassan, and good to hear your voice after a while. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, you're welcome.
Yes, my name is Frank Eze. You see, I am so glad to hear you, Dr. Moji. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Simply put, the problem here is hypocrisy from the leadership of the North. We know what to do. We know the truth. I have one Islamia center near my estate where I live. Do you know that the one that provided the center for the students don't attend, or rather they attend, but they are not part of the Almajiris that roam about? The children are in schools. Every morning, pleasure cars, beautiful school buses come to pick the children. When they finish their lessons and start going about with plates, the children don't go. One day, I counted him during our state meeting. I said, sir, why is it that your children don't join in parading with plates? He didn't answer. He threatened to fight. That's all. They know the truth. And the only thing that leaders in the North should do is to tell themselves the truth, that we want to change this system. It's not paying. It's not Nigeria. Sir, I'm sorry to say that Nigeria is an Islamic country. It is only on paper that you say it's secular. Nigeria attends OIC meeting. President Tinubu just came back from Arab Summit the other day. Nigeria.
All right. Okay. Okay. It went off. I know that the whole Arab Summit conversation always comes up, particularly when he attended that one and he spoke around the Middle East issue. But even it dates back. Even Goodluck Jonathan received a lot of bashing back then to say, why is Nigeria part of it? And we're saying it's not the Organization of Islamic Country
Conference.
Conference, that Nigeria is a signatory to it and we're part of it. at this point in time. But that does not translate technically to the fact that we are perceived and seen as an Islamic country. Even though I remember I went to Dubai just before COVID, and the Bangladeshi driver who carried me, when I said I was from Nigeria, he said, "Oh, Islamic country, but you don't look Muslim." I said, "No, it's not an Islamic country. It is a secular country, and we're evenly distributed in our faith."
I think it's also one of those diplomatic error, misadventure to have entered Nigeria into the OIC. OIC was formed by Islamic and Arab countries to fight for the liberation of Palestine and the holy sites therein. Nigeria, you have Christians, you have Muslims. If Nigeria wants to fight for the liberation of Palestine, it shouldn't be on religious ground, particularly the Islamic religious ground. It should be on the basis of humanity. That is, we think that people that constitute themselves into Palestine today deserve a state of their own. We also think that Israel deserves the right to exist side by side. So there should be peace. When you pursue the narrow religious agenda for the liberation of Palestine, it injures a lot. It injures a lot of not just sentiment. Let me tell you today, there's something that the Muslim world is even doing that is very dangerous for Palestine. Palestine is not an Islamic entity. Palestinians are both Christians and Muslims. And that's why for a long time, Arafat was leading a secular pan-Arab Palestinian struggle. Until Hamas stood in support of Iran, Islamized the struggle. The problem you're going to face is today, if you create an Islamic, a Palestinian state today, and there's an attempt to make it a Muslim entity, there will be a civil war like we had in Lebanon that would destabilize the entire country. That's another problem waiting to escalate. An attempt to want to now Islamize Palestine, which is supposed to be a secular state because of the significant minority population of Christians there. So, remove religion from anything that has to do with humanity. Remove it and keep it aside so you can think straight. With religion, for example, you can't think straight because you will take a narrow perspective to this matter. And so the foreign policy of Nigeria towards Palestine should not be guided or tailored towards any religion. It should be humanity. Like South Africa is preaching. Humanity. We think that both sides deserve equal deal, equal rights to exist, and we condemn all terrorist actions against the Israelis. We condemn all genocidal actions of Israel in Gaza. Simple. It's as simple as that. That is the position that the country like Nigeria should take.
All right. We'll need to run for a break to join the newsroom more like for the news at the top of the hour. We'll take more reaction, more feedback, and more stories. Please stay with 95.1 Nigeria Info.
This is Hard Facts. Hard Facts.
This is Nigeria Info. This is Nigeria Info.